Chapter 4, Mobile Prison Trap Victory. Previously, after Elias secured his MVP with a physics-defying glitch, Coach Vance issued an ultimatum to stop using the exploit before the league patches it in 12 hours. Now, Jax is preparing to expose him as a fraud on tomorrow's stream, while Elias races against time to find new strategies before his signature move is banned forever. Now, Chapter 4 begins. The notification blinked on Elias' terminal, a sterile red box that seemed to suck the oxygen out of the server room. Patch 421 deployed, physics engine stabilized. Status, Iron Warden wall bounce exploit annual LIFID. Elias stared at the screen, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. For 3 months, that glitch had been his lifeline, the secret geometry that let him traverse maps in ways the developers never intended. It was the reason he'd survived the cut, the reason Jax hadn't managed to bench him yesterday. Now, with 12 hours until the league's official broadcast window opened, it was just code history. A bug squashed. "You look like you just watched your dog get run over," a voice drawled from the doorway. Jax leaned against the frame, phone in hand, the camera lens pointed directly at Elias' slumped shoulders. The live stream counter in the corner of Jax's screen ticked upward, 204K viewers. "Cut the feed, Jax," Elias said, his voice flat. He didn't turn around. "And miss the moment the genius realizes his career is over before lunch," Jax laughed, a sharp, brittle sound designed for maximum engagement. "Chat says hello, Elias. They're calling you the one-trick hacker. Seems the league finally fixed the game so actual players can compete." Coach Vance stepped into the room behind Jax, silencing the captain with a single glare. Vance didn't care about streams, he cared about win rates. He walked past Jax as if the captain were furniture and stopped beside Elias' desk. "The patch is live," Vance stated, checking his watch. "Your signature play is gone. Your analyst access is revoked effective immediately. I don't need someone who relies on broken code to tell me how to win." Elias finally turned, meeting the coach's cold gaze. "I analyzed the meta shifts last season before the data was public. My value isn't just the glitch." "Prove it," Vance snapped. "The scrimmage against the Neon Vipers has been moved up. Noon today." Elias felt a spike of adrenaline cut through the fatigue. The Vipers were the #1 rookie squad in the league, known for a hyper-aggressive dive composition that tore teams apart in the first 10 minutes. "Jax will captain the main roster," Vance continued, his tone devoid of sympathy. "You're filling the support slot, and since you seem to lack versatility, you won't be picking your usual engaged champions. You're playing Chainbinder." Jax choked on a laugh. "Chainbinder? Coach, that champion hasn't seen pro play in 2 years. Zero mobility, no escape tools, it's a sitting duck." "Exactly," Vance said, looking at Elias. "If you can't survive without a glitch to bounce off walls, you don't belong on this team. Play support, win the lane, or you're cut by sunset." Vance turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Jax, draft the weakest items for him. Let's see if he can swim without floaties." As the door slid shut, Jax grinned, tapping his phone screen. "Did you hear that, chat? The hacker gets the leash. This is going to be painful." The apartment was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of the training facility. Elias sat in front of his personal rig, the glow of 3 monitors illuminating the darkened room. His phone buzzed incessantly on the desk, notifications from Mia, worried messages piling up as the hate train Jax had started gained speed. He ignored them, pulling up the replay files of the Neon Vipers' last 5 matches. Mia's face appeared on a secondary screen via video call, her expression tight with anxiety. "Elias, have you seen the comments? Jax clipped your reaction to the patch. They're saying you're done. That Vance is just humiliating you publicly before firing you." "Let them talk," Elias muttered, his eyes scanning the footage frame by frame. "Focus, Mia. I need you to pull the Viper's ace, Kale. Show me his dive pattern on the barren pit." "Elias, listen to me. Just do it." She sighed but complied, queuing up the clip. On screen, Kale, playing a high-mobility assassin, melted through 3 defenders to secure a kill. It was flawless, terrifying speed. "They rely on momentum," Elias whispered, leaning closer. "Kale doesn't stop. He uses dashes to reset his positioning. If he breaks line of sight, he vanishes." He paused the video at the exact moment Kale used his ultimate ability. Elias rewound it, played it again, slowed it down to 10% speed. Most players knew Chainbinder's ultimate created a tether that slowed a single target by 90% if they broke line of sight. It was a defensive tool, a desperate grab to keep an enemy from escaping. Useless against a diver who could blink away before the tether even formed. But Elias wasn't looking at the target. He was looking at the tether itself. In Season 1, before the physics engine overhaul, there was a forgotten interaction. The tether wasn't just a line between 2 champions, it was a collision object. If anchored to a moving unit, the slow effect applied to the area surrounding that unit for a split second as it moved. "The minion wave," Elias murmured. He pulled up the practice tool. He selected Chainbinder, the clunky, armored support with the heavy chain animation. He spawned a cannon minion, the largest, slowest unit in the game, and began to test. He cast his ultimate, not on an enemy champion, but on the cannon minion as it marched toward the enemy tower. As the minion moved, the tether dragged behind it. Elias positioned himself so the arc of the chain swept across a narrow choke point. He triggered a dummy to dash through the path. "Slow." The dummy didn't just slow, it stuttered. The movement speed reduction wasn't applied to the champion directly, it was applied to the space the minion occupied. Because the minion was moving, the zone of effect moved with it. It wasn't a glitch. It was a mechanic so obscure, so counterintuitive, that the entire pro scene had forgotten it existed. Everyone saw Chainbinder as a stationary turret. Elias saw a mobile prison. "For 3 hours, he told Mia, who was watching silently now, "I'm not learning to survive. I'm learning to build a kill box." His hands flew across the keyboard, practicing the timing. Anchor to minion. Predict the dash. Step forward, not back. The rhythm was unnatural, a dance of precise positioning that required knowing exactly where every unit would be 3 seconds before they got there. By 11:45 a.m., Elias' APM spiked, then settled into a terrifyingly consistent rhythm. He wasn't reacting anymore. He was dictating. The scrimmage stage was bathed in the harsh white light of the studio lamps. The air hummed with the low thrum of cooling fans and the murmur of the production crew. A large screen above the stage displayed the live feed, already broadcasting to thousands of viewers tuning in for the humiliation of the century, according to the pre-show graphics. Team Apex sat on the left, Neon Vipers on the right. Jax cracked his knuckles, shooting a smirk at Elias. "Remember, no bouncing off walls today, hacker," Jax whispered over the team comms, though he knew the channel was open to the coaches too. "Try not to die in the first minute. It looks bad on my stats." "Focus, Jax," Vance barked from the booth above. "Game start." The match began. True to form, the Neon Vipers exploded out of the gate. Their jungler invaded early, forcing a skirmish in the river. Jax, overconfident and eager to prove his dominance, chased too deep. "Elias Peel," Jax screamed as 2 Vipers collapsed on him. "Why aren't you binding them?" "I'm positioning," Elias replied calmly. "Positioning? You're standing still, you're useless." The chat on the overhead screen scrolled rapidly. Trash pick. Vance lost his mind. Elias is feeding. By the 15-minute mark, Team Apex was down 4 towers. The Vipers had secured control of the map, grouping up to take Baron Nashor. The massive purple monster roared in the pit, its health bar dwindling under the Vipers' coordinated assault. "They're stealing Baron," Jax panicked. "We have to contest. Elias, stay back and ward, don't engage, you'll just die." The Vipers initiated. Kale, the ace assassin, flashed over the wall, diving straight for the backline. His target was Elias. It was the obvious play: kill the immobile support, clean up the rest. Jax scrambled to defend, but he was out of position, tangled in crowd control. Kayle was unstoppable, a blur of steel and shadows closing the distance to Elias. Die, the chat seemed to scream. Run, coward. Elias didn't run. He stepped forward. Into the enemy team, into the range of 5 killers. On the minimap, a cannon minion was pushing into the center of the Viper's formation, drawn by the aggression. Elias locked his cursor onto it. Ultimate chain of condemnation. The heavy iron chain shot out, not at Kayle, but at the friendly cannon minion marching blindly into the fray. The tether snapped taut. Kayle dashed, his blade raised for the killing blow. He crossed the path of the marching minion just as the tether swung wide, anchored to the moving unit. The invisible zone of effect triggered. Kayle froze, not a stun, not a root, but a 90% movement speed reduction that hit him mid-dash. His momentum vanished. He hung in the air for a fraction of a second, vulnerable, unable to complete his animation or blink away. Elias didn't panic. He didn't spam abilities. He simply walked forward, closing the gap that Kayle could no longer escape. He pressed the basic attack key. Click. The auto-attack landed, then another. Jax, Elias called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. Now. Jax, snapping out of his stupor, saw the opening. The ace of the Neon Vipers was trapped in place by a support champion everyone considered trash. Jax unloaded his combo. Kayle's health bar evaporated. First blood. The momentum shifted instantly. The Vipers, expecting an easy cleanup, hesitated. That hesitation was all Team Apex needed. The rest of the team surged forward, capitalizing on the removal of the primary threat. Elias didn't stop. He repositioned, anchoring his next tether to a siege minion pushing the mid lane. When the Viper's jungler tried to flank, he walked right into the slowing field. Trapped again. Killed again. He's boxing them in, the caster on the broadcast shouted, voice rising in disbelief. Look at that positioning. Elias isn't running, he's herding them like cattle. Twice more, Elias repeated the maneuver. Each time, he stepped into danger, anchored the chain to a moving piece of the board, and turned the Viper's own aggression against them. The immobile chain binder became the most dangerous thing on the map, a mobile zone control trap that dictated the flow of the entire fight. When the Nexus finally exploded, the score read 16-14. A narrow victory, but undeniable. Silence fell over the stage, broken only by the roar of the virtual crowd. Jax stared at his screen, his mouth slightly open. He looked at Elias, then back at the death recap showing Kayle stopped dead by a minion tether. How? Jax started, but no sound came out. Elias unplugged his keyboard, his hands steady. He hadn't used a glitch. He hadn't bounced off a wall. He had simply understood the game better than anyone else in the room. The locker room was thick with tension. Coach Vance stood by the whiteboard, reviewing the post-game data logs. Jax sat in the corner, fuming, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. The door opened, and Claire walked in. The owner's daughter didn't look at Jax. She didn't acknowledge the coach. She walked straight to Elias, who was packing his bag. "That was incredible," she said, her voice carrying easily in the quiet room. "The clips are already viral. Commentators are calling it the anchor meta. Sponsors are flooding my inbox asking about the analyst who plays support." Vance looked up, his expression unreadable. He won the scrimmage. Technically, he fulfilled the ultimatum. Technically, Claire turned to the coach, her eyes hard. He redefined the support role on a champion you assigned to fail him. There's no technically about it. Elias is promoted to starting strategic support for the next official match, effective immediately. Jax slammed his locker shut. This is insane. He got lucky with a weird interaction. "It wasn't luck, Jax," Claire said coolly. "And unlike some captains, he delivers wins when backed into a corner." She turned back to Elias, offering a small, genuine smile. "Welcome to the starting lineup, Elias." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of the roster slot settle on his shoulders. It was real. He had fought his way back from the brink, not with cheats, but with skill. There is one complication, however, Claire added, her tone shifting. She pulled a tablet from her bag and swiped it toward Elias. On the screen was an official notice from the league commissioner's office. Red stamps marked the document, urgent investigation. The precision of your tether placements, Claire explained, her voice dropping. The league's anti-cheat algorithms flagged it. They're calling it potential scripting. The timing is too perfect, they say, too inhuman. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. I calculated the vectors. It's mechanical skill. I know, Claire said, but perception is reality in this league. The commissioner has placed you under scripting surveillance for the next match. Every input you make will be monitored in real time. If you miss a single skill shot, if your accuracy drops below 99% for even a second, they won't ask questions. They'll ban you for cheating. Lifetime. She tucked the tablet away, her gaze intense. You have the spot, Elias. You have the fame, but now you have to be perfect. One mistake and you're done forever. Elias zipped his bag, the sound loud in the silent room. The pressure hadn't lifted. It had just changed shape. Before, he was fighting to be seen. Now, he was fighting to prove he wasn't a machine. Understood, Elias said, shouldering his bag. I'll see you at the arena. He walked past Jax, past the stunned coach, and out into the hallway. The victory was his, but the noose had just tightened. In the next chapter, as the league's top player issues a chilling threat to break my hands if I play safe, I realized that surviving the investigation was only the beginning of a much more dangerous game.